I'll be 30 in the next 2 years. So the grind is until then. We're trying to get to 200K subs by then. So just to let y'all know, that's the grind. But today's review, I've been seeing on the internet a lot of talk about Whoopi Goldberg and her opinion after she expressed herself on The View. And it was basically about her trying to identify what Jewish people are in the sense of Judaism / race, which has always been a big question among people who don't really know the history or delve into the facts about Judaism. Other than that, you know, I don't think anything she really said was around the marks of anti-Semitism. You know, as someone who experienced Roseanne, or someone who's experienced like someone like Mel Gibson, I could definitely say this is not in the realm of anti-Semitism. But it's just really showing the not the ignorance, but the lack of education when it comes from someone like Whoopi Goldberg. I mean, you know, if anybody ever went to the Holocaust Museum, I did myself 3 times. First time in grade school, second time in middle school, third time in high school. And throughout all my experiences, one thing I've always learned going to the Holocaust Museum was that indeed it was definitely about race. You know, Hitler talked about superior race, inferior races, pure races, and all those other type of things that would be deemed unnecessary when talking about unity when it comes to people. But the realistic measurement with it is also, if you go to the Holocaust Museum, there's a certain section in the back, you know, really not out the way, but it shows the black German people who had basically died from the Holocaust, and basically showed their travels and how it happened and what happened to them and all these other type of things. So you can definitely understand that the Holocaust was definitely about race, especially, you know, like I always say, for Jewish and black Germans who existed. They were the first ones targeted, especially the Jewish people, understandably, because of the economics and the intertwined society. They would go for them first. But after the Jewish people were all locked up, the first people they started going after were black people. And that goes even into the extent of the gas chambers, the internment camps, and everything else. 100%. When I went into that exhibit, they showed, you know, black people, you know, the pictures of black Germans, you know, being starved out and, you know, basically being forced out of Germany, and all these other type of things that happen. So, you know, we always have to remember what Hitler did was an atrocity. It definitely 100% was about race. A lot of people might not understand the complexities of these type of situations because of modern racial pedagogies that exist. But the reality is that in some type of way, the Jewish identity through Judaism is intersectional through race because of their long attributed history with their religion and culture, which is, and ironically, very common in old society. In old civilization, it was very common for race and identity to be intertwined, and because Jewish people have that connection to it, they can value that race and identity. But when it comes to these type of topics, not that many people are educated fully on understanding and the anti-Semitism that came from Hitler. It's very orthodox, because from a lot of black people's perspective, when they look at it, it's a little bit different. You know, especially when you look at the racism that we've dealt with here in America. You know, a lot of black people, such as Whoopi Goldberg, had that perception of racism through a black mind, which basically means white is white and black is black. And unfortunately, that is the understanding alignment in America. Yes, Jewish people have fought against anti-Semitism in America, but even in America, you could be Polish, you could be Irish, you could be whatever you want, whatever you are, and still benefit from the society that exists. So that I believe that's where Whoopi was coming from. It was more of the cross identity. But me also, as a black person, I understand it because I'm a little bit younger, had more research given to us when we were going. And like I said, I grew up going to the Holocaust Museum 3 different times. We have to remember Whoopi Goldberg is from the era of the civil rights. Her understanding of all these things isn't really intricate, due to the fact that when she was growing up, she was still dealing with lynching. She was still dealing with, the black migration, the KKK, no representation and things like that. Even to Whoopi Goldberg speaking about how Uhura in the original 1960 Star Trek was one of the first times she saw a dominant black woman be in a profession where she wasn't degraded and or sexualized and all these other things. So, it's a very tricky subject. But do I think Whoopi Goldberg is an anti-Semitic? No, I don't. No, this is just a common misunderstanding of the intersectionality of Judaism. You can't say that she's anti-Semitic. Especially people who are comparing it to Sharon Osbourne and Roseanne dressed up as Hitler and made a joke about Jewish people burning in an oven with cookies, where Sharon was caught on a hot mic calling black people all types of thugs and hoodlums. So honestly speaking, from my perspective, I think that, I don't think that Whoopi Goldberg said anything in the form of anti-Semitism. What she did was, unfortunately, spread misinformation. And that, once again, it could be cleared up, and it's not as the same thing as a Joe Rogan situation. It's just a misinformation and misunderstanding. Race is complex. Anybody can tell you this. If you're a historian, I have a history degree. I have 2 degrees. Actually 3. I'm a double major in financial economics and psychology and a minor in history. That being said, anybody that's read a history book could tell you one thing. Race is complex. Race and culture is complex. Even with black people in Africa, wars and civilizations have been destroyed just based on culture and identity. And that goes for almost anybody else. You look at the Europeans with the Anglo-Saxons and the Celtics and the Vikings and all that. When it comes to culture and identity, these things, it's hard to intertwine and mingle. And that's why a lot of our modern humans fight for all of these, problems, because, we can't separate these two. And I think that it's, I think it's coming to the point where we really have to start moving forward when it comes to the sense of identity of race. Not saying that we should all not see color, obviously not, but we need to move forward where these conversations could be proactive, can be productive, can have change. With Whoopi saying this, she came back, she learned from the situation and spoke about it. But the reaction to people wanting it to be like Joe Rogan or what Republicans or Gina Carano has done is nowhere close to the same. I mean, like I said, comparing the Holocaust to Republicans having to be Republicans to being vaccinated, that is wrong. That's disingenuous. That is horrible to compare those two. That's like comparing slavery to what's going on now with the vaccine mandate. That makes absolutely no sense at all. So is anybody else that compares and conflates these two. What Whoopi did is a rare occasional moment where someone isn't given the full understanding of the complexities of this topic. If you go to school, you learn about the Holocaust from a very minimal point of view. You don't really get, like, for example, me growing up, when I learned about the Holocaust, I did not know about black Germans and black people growing up in Germany and suffering to the Holocaust. I did not know anything about this. I always have presumed it was just Jewish people and or the occasional roaming ethnic Europeans of gypsies, right? But then I go to the Holocaust Museum and then I see my own people, being starved out, pictures of gas chambers and things like that. So when I saw that, I was like, all right, this dude Hitler right here, right? You feel me? It's about race. And just the other things he said in these conversations, once again, talking about inferior race, for me, it's really about the whole Jesse Owens situation. Even when Hitler went to the Olympics, he wouldn't give Jesse Owens the credibility. But as a lot of black people understand, one of the most prolific things about the Jesse Owens problem, which was that that Hitler did not want to say anything to him or congratulate him. Guess who also did not recognize him in that same stance? Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So that gives you a little understanding of the complexities of nationalism, race, and identity. Jesse Owens being a proud Black American, as many Black Americans are, we fight for our country, we die for our country, we participate for our country, we advocate for our country, every single thing. And him not being recognized by his own president. So, you know, even with the Hitler situation, we have to understand the complexities of race, even in America and even in Europe, and how that led to the way it did. And yeah, that's basically it. I think Whoopi definitely learned from this moment. It was definitely a learning moment for the Whoopster. Do I think that she should be canceled? No. It's just a learning thing. Not that many people are informed about the intersectionalities of Judaism. So I think that she definitely should just learn up on it. And, you know, just like she did. She brought someone in on The View last week. They spoke about the intersectionalities and then they moved forward. And I think that's the perfect thing. I don't think she should lose her job, and I don't think any of that is necessary. So I love Whoopi, you know, to a certain extent. You know, I'm one of those Black people who I stand with everyone, you know, even the ones that we call Uncle Toms or Coons or whatever. I still try to understand them, because we as Black people did not get to this point, you know, just by ourselves, you know, especially Black Americans. You know, there's a whole historical tirade that also exists with the complexities of Black people understanding their own traumas, but also within the ethnic Jewish community, their traumas, and how in today's correlations. Because like I said, for a lot of Black people, they've experienced you know, these notions being reinforced by a lot of foreign people. So when it comes down to it, a lot of Black Americans, like I said, take the idea of race from a very different perspective, which obviously in today's modern time, we need to start, you know, educating ourselves more on these different perspectives. So if we get any more news, you know me, guys, I'll always update you guys. I'm gonna start editing a little bit of these videos more. I'm gonna do this one too. Add a little music or whatever to the background, see what I can do. But until then, I'll see you guys in the next one.